Welcome back again. Episode, what are we on now? 49.
49.
We pulled the intro off right because I didn't let Brian do it. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm kind of gonna miss that thing.
I didn't actually. You're still a little quiet too, Jordan.
Am I?
Yeah, you're a little quiet. Yeah.
Am I
But
talking?
no, Jordan said he's going to miss it because we just filmed our official intro that we've been talking about for 8 months yesterday.
Yep.
And hopefully in a few weeks we'll have that, and it'll actually be cool. Michigan Brews theme shit, not some random audio clip with a black screen. So anyway, as you can see, we're joined by Brandon Sabo. Sabo? I should have asked you that before we went on air.
Sabo, but
Sabo.
always said Sabo or Sabo. So, yeah.
Sabo is what
point. Kind of just like, yeah.
Sabo's what's stuck in my
Actually,
head.
the hop that here has Sabo on it too. So yeah.
Hey, perfect.
Nice. So you're the head brewer for Ascension Brewing Company out of Novi, right? And really appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us tonight.
You know, we have. Yeah, this is actually my first podcast. So I've been looking forward to this the past couple of days. I'm kind of excited about this one.
Right on. So tell us a little bit about Ascension. Like I said beforehand, I tried to do some digging. I didn't find out too much. So give us a little bit of background on your brewery.
We actually opened in July of 2015. And been kind of putting along for the past 5 years, actually 6 years now coming up. The past year and a half have been pretty interesting for us and probably the entire brewing industry, if not the restaurant industry in itself too. But we are a very small brewery as of right now. We have a 3.5 barrel system, and it's brewed on 3 times per day. We have a total of 17 fermenters in our basement fermentation area, and they range in size from 3 barrel to 10 barrel, mostly being 10 barrel. Then we have a small canning line, so we're able to actually get out to our customer base, into some stores around us locally. I do know that we're in the Traverse City area occasionally, and up in the Gaylord area because I like going fishing up there, so some stores carry the stuff up there. But yeah, we like having fun and doing stupid things at our work. We never actually really work, I like to say.
That's awesome. Now, did you start with the brewery, or were they around before you came in?
So yes, I've been there since day one.
Awesome.
I started there. We had basically 9 plastic fermenters, and kind of just made things work. It was a really interesting situation. We started with very little money, barely enough to keep the lights on for the first month, and the operation just kind of took off from there. We kind of learned as we went, which is kind of the home brewer way. I mean, everybody there started as a home brewer, and none of us were professional brewers. Some of us started out, and we just kind of learned, made it work.
Right on.
You know, we don't have much money.
How'd you get into home brewing?
I have to.
Yeah.
So oddly enough, my parents got me a homebrew kit when I was 16 years old, and the rule was
nice.
We're at home. So it kind of stuck with me for a while, and then through college did it for a little bit, and never really thought I was having a brewing job per se ever, and then I just kind of fell into one day. I just don't know how it happened, but it was an interesting experience to start out from a brewery from day one and kind of see it, go from what it was to what it is to what it's possibly going to be in the next, few months here. It's kind of exciting.
Is your canning line in your basement too?
Yeah.
Or, where do you? I was going to ask where you fit that in.
Okay. We have a little elevator. It's something that we built out of a winch system that we're able to lift about 1,500 pounds. But our one issue is that we have a 48 by 48 inch area that we're able to drop in through. And then we have a 44 inch door. So all our fermenters are dropped in that way. And it's literally impossible finding fermenters that are in that size range in a 10 barrel size. It took us 2 years to find one, and it was out of Austria. of all places. But it is a fully
Wow.
jacketed, pressurized fermenter. It will hold 60 psi if you really trust it, but we don't really try to put more than 20 into it. Our canning line went down the stairs in 2 pieces.
Wow.
So you said you got a 48 by 48 inch hole or entry on there. So I mean, are you? That's about the size of a pallet, right? Like, how are you transporting that stuff up case by case?
I'll give you an example. We get grain deliveries every 14 days, and it's about 9,000 pounds. And we get dropped off in the back of our building. And it's me and 3 other guys that carry bags up the flight of stairs, down a flight of stairs, actually from the parking lot up a flight of stairs, into the building, down 2 flights of stairs in the basement, and then back 100 into the grain room. It gets milled back there, then back up that exact same way to the brew house. So 9,000 pounds every 2 weeks that way, there and back. It's a fun little one to do.
Stay in shape. Yeah.
I don't gain weight. I drink a lot of beer. I don't know how it happens.
Yeah. All that grain carrying, man.
It's the crazy brewer workout on top of the crazy brewer diet. They balance each other out. I guess.
It literally is.
All in balance. Yep.
What Cup taught me is I could really live off of beer for a while.
So we missed the most important thing because it jumped right in. What are you drinking? What you got? What do you got in the glass?
So actually, I got to double check. I have a beer called Leverage and Angles. I have the that rip-off Brewers can. These are like the reject cans with a special label on it. But if I recall, I want to say it's Cashmere and Citra or Cashmere and Columbus dry hop. New England style IPA. It's almost like grapefruit juice right now. It's just over a month and a half old in the can, which it's getting pretty interesting now.
Are those the sort of styles that you started off brewing there, or has the beer sort of like evolved like over the years since you've been open? Or
I started in this industry when the whole craze of the highest IBU and the highest alcohol thing was just taking off, and you know, McKellar had their 1,000 IBU IPA. If you guys remember that one, it would kind of tear the paint off with a wall or the taste buds up the top of your tongue, and that was really the beers that were big and popular when I first got into the commercial industry, the brewing industry. And we started off with our tap list being basically all like high gravity West Coast style IPAs, barley wines, and your traditional wheat beers. It was actually almost a very traditional tap list at the time. And then about 3 years ago, I want to say 3.5 years ago, no, actually longer than that, 4 years ago now, it's July 2016, 5 years now at this point, that we actually took a jump into doing more like hot styles. I ended up taking a trip out to the East Coast in early 2015 for the CBC conference. And I got introduced to a lot of very interesting up-and-coming styles that kind of were grabbing my attention. And, trading some in the homebrew, I was very familiar with the Alchemist, which everybody at the time was going crazy for. And then Treehouse was just starting to pop into the scene. So it was meeting all those people there, getting to try their beers, and it was like, wow, this is kind of the new trend. And seeing the lines at that conference to bars that had these beers, it was mind-opening. It was weird. I'd never seen that before in the industry. So it was kind of like, okay, how do we get this style back into Michigan? This would be interesting to see if it would take on here. And breweries like Transient, Old Nation, I mean, between those two breweries, it really blew it up in Michigan. So it was right at the right time, right at the right place. It was just kind of, why not? And it's fun, but my true style is I like drinking lagers, light, crispy lagers. I mean, you go to my brewery, my like 3 other guys who do the same thing. But lagers.
Are you brewing a lot of those right now?
So we are really starting to focus a lot of attention on them. It's the kind of a new wave of the industry we're looking at, and we're kind of excited about it because we're like, yes, beer we can finally drink a lot of and not feel bad about ourselves.
When I started homebrewing, I was really big on the big stouts and the big fruit beers, and then the IPAs and stuff like that. And now that I'm 8-9 years into it, and all I want to brew is beer, just beer, nice crisp lagers, easy drinking bitters. And it was funny because I was just talking to a guy that worked for Imperial for 25 years, and we were talking about we're I think both sitting there drinking a Founder Solid Gold or something, and talking about why that there needs to be more good craft lagers out there. There's a few, but it would be nice to be able to go into every brewery and actually have a lager option. So I agree.
You'll be probably seeing more and more pop up hopefully soon from more breweries. It seems the trends are starting to pop on. I don't know if you ever came across a beer stout lager out of Colorado.
Yeah.
It's life changing. I mean,
really,
it was some of the best beer I've ever had in my entire life.
What was it again?
Beer stock.
You broke up for a second. Beer stock? Okay. Let me
beer
check it
stock.
Right on. But you guys, when I was there a few weeks ago, it seems like you're kind of keeping up with the trends. I saw several seltzers, several like fruit smoothie type beers, like some sour based beers or whatever. You guys having fun? It looks like you're having fun with that.
We're having fun with them. Well, we do it more for the masses. I truthfully don't enjoy drinking those beers myself as much, but I do prefer the more traditional sours. But I feel like the industry is kind of slowly going away from those, which is kind of a little hit to my heart. But we're trying to keep up with making beer sales, being able to invest more money into buying more equipment to make more beer. So we kind of have to follow the trends. But with following the trends allows us to then spend more money to do the projects that we actually want to do, and then a little side projects that you might not be able to afford if you didn't do the stuff that people wanted.
That makes sense.
And
okay.
It's kind of like selling out, but at the long term, you're paying the bills and you have a little extra money to work with. So
there's no selling.
It's kind
out.
of a necessary thing.
Yeah.
But,
you can't sell out.
I still enjoy brewing those beers. It's still they're hard to make. They're just not as fun as making a lager or making a good stout or making a great saison. And nothing's more fun than brewing a saison, in my opinion.
Really?
Do you think it's just like the challenge, like the nothing to hide, sort of attitude and sort of the pride that comes along, like in the back end of just like having this like excellent beer.
Yeah. Style so perfected for so long, like lagers, any traditional German lager, any like old saison, booze, Lambic farmhouse beer. I've brewed 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 of them in different batches, and I've never really been happy with any one of them until recently. And it's in a lot of practice. There's a lot of things you just can't cover up. You screw up, you taste it right away, and especially being a brewer, as you guys know, homebrew or even on a small commercial scale, you're really hard against yourself. So like any minute thing you don't like about it, you're really
Yeah.
I agree.
Are you still homebrewing at home or anything like that, or is it just like not enough time, not enough? You brew 3 times a day on your system already.
It's funny. I get asked the question if I brew at home. I get home and the last thing I want to see is the brew house almost. It's funny because COVID forced me to pick up another hobby, and my hobby was brewing before I got into brewing, and I really took it seriously. So I didn't have a hobby for almost 5 years, and I didn't really realize that until COVID happened. And I was sitting around, I'm like, I don't really have anything to do. Like, what do I want to do? And I was like looking back as a kid, like what I like, and I like fishing. So grabbed the fishing pole and went out, and now I'm kind of hooked to that. It's kind of my little side hustle at this point.
Speaking my language.
I was actually, it was on my list of things. as I was trying to dig up stuff on you this last week, I think I came across your Facebook page and saw all the fly fishing, all the pictures of trout, and I was like, oh shit, Jordan's gonna pick up on that.
Shit, yeah. Michigan
Yeah,
streams. There's a side
my
shoot.
new really bad hobby.
No, it's not bad.
I'm literally
awesome.
talking off my fly tying table right now.
That's. I was just gonna ask if you tie your own flies. That's awesome. That's a whole other hobby in and of itself.
Yeah, it's a bad hobby.
Oh, you went ham. You went ham, man.
But
you did a lot of shit.
It's a good relaxation. Getting on the stream, drinking a beer, and casting.
Hell yeah!
It's a good way to get away from normal life.
Oh, yep, 100%. I agree with you 100%.
We started, homebrewing and stuff too much or so much during the quarantine and stuff like that we picked this up, I guess, maybe as a mini hobby too or something.
It was. We missed the beer meetings and missed hanging out at the bar, so we started drinking virtually online. This was just an excuse to drink. So thanks for joining us and helping us
feed our
you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I haven't seen any of the festivals, and it's all the festivals starting to happen again. It's like, whoa, life again.
Yeah.
I mean, the Michigan Brewers Festival, it's like one after another for a solid month and a half. It's going to be a fun time. And I saw that the Home Brewers Festival is happening again this year, which it's been a while for me for that one, but that's one hell of a festival.
That is near and dear to our hearts, very much so.
Man,
we're very excited about MHF. That's our beer Christmas, where all of our favorite holidays are rolled into one right there. So yeah, that's out in your area. Even though you're a pro brewer, man, stop by and drink some homebrew. It's still.
I will have to. It's been probably, I was there in 2014, I think it was last time. I need to make a neck out to that. I was kind of hanging out with the Sons of Liberty back in the day during that festival time.
Yeah. Well, that's probably. I mean, that's how we got connected with you, is because we were hanging out with Lee and Jeff, actually talking about MHF, and after that show, I was telling Lee and those guys, I'm like, hey, if you know anybody that we should hook up with and chat with, and we do this all organically, so we're not always out there like trying to drum up new business. It just kind of flows through. This is a hobby, like we just said. It's not a business for us. So Lee from Sons of Liberty connected us together, and I appreciate that. But I like hanging out with Sons of Liberty too. good guys, good beer.
It's always a good party, especially when there's homebrew involved.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So on your beer, man,
you guys got any fun projects you guys are working on?
Oh, it's been working, getting ready for competitions. So in the homebrew space, we do Michigan Beer Cup, Michigan State Fair, Glant Cap. Those are all coming on. So that's what we're working on. Brian just took his first national homebrew competition medal a couple weeks ago. Yep.
Congratulations, man.
Thanks.
So that's our focus, I think.
I was just going to say, probably you're speaking of sours and stuff like that, and I think probably about like 18 months ago I started really getting into doing like mixed fermentation, sours and stuff like that, and blending and that sort of stuff. And I probably have like 10 kegs worth of like random sours in my basement right now for like blending and stuff. That's actually what this is for. It's American Wild Ale.
Nice.
So that's kind of been my new passion project, is blending sours and stuff like that. It is. Yeah. You can create beer, that is pretty much impossible to create. Otherwise, you can't just like ferment a beer that tastes like that, right? You can never make it unless like you combine a couple things together. And I think there's something very cool about that. I don't know. So that and mead for me, I've been getting into mead a little bit too. So it's been personal projects.
And mead is a hard one for me.
Have you guys done? Are you doing any cider wine?
We're in the process
That's
of
something you want
actually
to try
getting
to
a
do.
distilling and winemaking license. And I mean, we'll play with the idea. I just don't know if I'm going to have the time to actually focus as much as I'd like to on it. So I don't know how we're going to go forward once we do get it. Just kind of something that was an option for us. Like, oh, it's there to do. Why not have license? If we want to really stick into it and try to do it, we can. I worked at a home brewing shop for a couple of years and taught people how to make cider and wine, and had experience done it before, but just never in a big, large scale, and never on a like very high end scale. So it's not something I consider myself an expert on. It's something that people that make cider, they're very passionate about it, and they don't tell you their secrets. They're very tight-lipped, not like brewers. Brewers will tell you everything. It's funny.
Yeah. We've got a guy up in Grand Rapids. He's part of what's that club, Jason?
Either Primetime.
Is it Primetime or KGB? I can't remember. But he's taken gold, like cider maker of the year in NHC, like 6 times now. I think he just took it again this year. And I don't think I've ever had his stuff, but you have to imagine that, like, something that other people don't know.
You have to know your stuff, yeah.
I mean, we had
an art form. It really is.
We've had Andrew Blake on the show before and to talk about cider, and he went. I think our experience with cider is get apple juice from the orchard and put some yeast in it and call it cider, and then to talk to him, and they're doing with cider what we do with beer. They're blending multiple varieties together in different proportions, just like we would do with malts and stuff. So it's definitely an art form that we have no clue on. So good luck to you if you decide to broach into that.
I mean, I
didn't even know that many kinds of apples existed.
Brewing cider, man. Yeah. It's not something I'm.
What about Costa Rica?
I'm excited to get my hands more into it, but I'm kind of still sticking to the brewing side.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. So what was that about the brewing Costa Rica? Is that Monkey Hand?
I have some friends down there that have 2 breweries. That it's fun going down there and watching how they brew down there because it's entertaining. The supply chain, like we have in the United States, where we can get malt from anywhere. You have 10 different yeast companies. You go down there and you want to buy some yeast, and it's like, well, it doesn't exist. Or if it does, it's 2-year-old SO4, SO5s. Yeah, you kind of work with what you have. So it's really interesting to watch how they work down there. And I was down there for about a month and a half just before COVID, helping a friend open his brewery and cidery up down there. And it's a challenge. There's no Home Depots. There's no UPS. There's no mailing anything. You want to get something shipped, it doesn't happen. You need parts for something, you got to make it yourself. Yeah, it's a one.
Does he have like a 3D
eye-opening
printer?
experience, and you come back to here. That's actually not a bad idea because truthfully, that's a good thing to have on his list there to repair things because we need to repair our igniter form as brew houses. And his brew house is like a homebrew kind of brew house. It's it's a 1-barrel stout tank style system, and it's an igniter we can go to any like Home Depot and buy off the shelf. Down there, we got quoted like $25 for the igniter, $600 to ship it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was not a really fun moment. So we had to make things work. You're sticking your hands in there with a torch and trying to light it that way. It's not the greatest thing since you're 2 hours from the hospital.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Is craft beer taking off down there though? Like here? I mean,
it's huge. It's
really,
it's in its infancy and it's fun to watch. It's like us 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's so cool. And I enjoy being down there because there's a brewery in just outside of Playas del Coco, and the guy's from Texas. His name is James. I think his name is James. And he is doing absolutely phenomenal beers down there that are just beautiful, and they're very local ingredients. It's hard to explain unless you go there, and it's a beautiful location. He's making so much beer right now that he can't expand fast enough. Since I was there last a year and a half ago, I think they've opened up another 20 more breweries. And then right next to the airport where I fly out from, there's 2 breweries. I mean, you can't walk more than 5 feet from the airport and hit a brewery. It's the coolest thing ever.
That is awesome.
So it's kind of cool to see the state of craft beer expand outside the United States and kind of take hold. It's, banging on the big boys, because down there it's the big boys. That was all it was for 100 years.
Yeah. What are they into? What do they want to drink down there right now?
The sour revolution's taking over. The heavily fruited sours are everywhere. It's so cool. And plus,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I think you're fine. I think you're lagging a little bit behind us, so sometimes we're crossing streams a little bit. But go ahead.
You're gonna write that.
Yeah. Well, on the topic of sours, let's get back to Ascension. I see you guys doing just all kinds of crazy big additions in your beers. Like, I mean, I think I'm trying to remember some of the beers when I was there. The just heavily fruited, like the key lime pie was pretty interesting and amazing. But then I also see pictures on your feed of like hundreds of pounds of cinnamon rolls and shit like that. I mean, you guys, has it always been, like go big or go home with you guys, or?
Well, it started with the stupid beer that I made about 4 years ago called Spooltorf. We were trying to step away from the normal realms of things, and it was like 3-4 o'clock in the morning at the brewery, and I had to do my first batch of the day. And my assistant at the time, we were eating Fruit Loops. And I'm going, I am so tired and just burnt out right now. I'm gonna make a beer out of freaking Fruit Loops just to show the boss, go off and F off. The joke kind of stayed there and became an idea. So one day I ended up brewing a beer with Fruit Loops, 200 pounds of Fruit Loops, 100 pounds of marshmallows, 25 pounds of applesauce, 35 pounds of lactose, 50 pounds of Galaxy hops. When he got the bill for it, he was flipping out. He goes, "If this doesn't sell, I'm going to kill you, and you're not longer here anymore." And I was just too excited about that night. And the next day, we had a can release, and we sold out of it in, I think, 45 minutes. So it was like, okay, you have free reign, do what you want, have fun, just don't be too stupid. And the stupid part is pushable. I mean, I think the worst thing we've ever done is put 500 pounds of Sour Patch Kids in a beer. I think the worst thing.
Did that not turn out?
Like taste wise or cleaning wise? Yeah.
It turned out it's just I felt bad about doing that. There's something wrong about seeing that much Sour Patch Kids in the bottom of a fermenter after you're done emptying out the tank.
Did you try to eat them? They taste with all the sugar gone.
Actually, they taste really weird. There's no flavor. It's just gelatin. It's the weirdest thing. The krausen on the tank is this weird blue color that doesn't go away.
So what was, because Fruit Loop beer is near and dear to my heart. So what was your style? What was the base on that?
It was a double IPA, New England style, milkshake style. I guess before milkshakes really existed, it was just like, what can we throw in this beer to piss people off? And it was kind of that. It actually turned out palatable and good. People have asked me to this day to make it again. I made it 3 times, I think, since we made the first batch, and I've just kind of brushed it off the past year and a half. I feel so bad about making that beer.
So my story is I
started out as a straight joke.
Well, we had a cereal beer competition at our club where we each had to brew a beer with a box of cereal, and I picked Fruit Loops, and I did a Berliner Weiss. And it did well. I even took and cooked down another box of Fruit Loops and made a syrup, so it could be like a traditional Berliner Weiss style, where you could put some Fruit Loop syrup in it.
What kind of weird color was that syrup?
Murky, dark gray. Yeah, so
that's
that's the thing is I somewhere I have pictures of through this fermentation process of my Fruit Loop beer, it like came out dishwater, gray, and then I think in the first boil, like some of the reds dropped out, so I was left with this like ectoplasm green color, and then some of the blues fell out, and it was like this bright yellow. And then when I finally crashed it and kegged it, it was this beautiful pale straw color Berliner Weiss. It's fine. But watching that transition,
that's exactly how ours turned out too. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? When you cleaned the fermenter out, was that weird blue crowds in there that like just didn't look right?
Yeah.
And every time I see them, I'm just kind of like, oh, I don't know about that. That's a lot of.
It was so. It was unique, but you know what? The beer did really well. As a joke, I sent it to nationals, and it placed in the first round. It got a medal, or got a ribbon.
That's awesome.
It went on to win like 2 or 3 other gold medals. And the one time that I brewed it without the Fruit Loops, it sucked. So,
like the secret ingredient, then.
So I've had to rebrew it, and I just keep going back to it, and I have to do it with the Fruit Loops. It's like a curse because it's stupid, but yeah, it's funny.
You have feedback somewhere that says a
Cocoa Puffs in
perfect example of the style.
Yeah, I've had Cocoa Puff beers. I've had other breweries do Cocoa Puff beers, and how did yours turn out? Like, did you think it was fakey cocoa or?
Truthfully, none of the flavor really came out of it. It was most of the hops overpowered everything. So we did an IPA again, and it was faintly there, but not really. It's kind of hard to explain. It wasn't bad. It was actually decent, but yeah. If I probably do it again, it'd be a stout. I guess would be the most common way of using Cocoa Puffs in a beer. But, I mean, we've also put in 69 pounds of Nesquik in a beer before it actually turned out palatable and decently good.
I saw the picture of the Nesquik. I saw the picture of hundreds of pounds of cinnamon rolls. And are you're doing, when you're doing these big additions, you're just doing it right in the fermenter?
So we're doing it in secondary. So we'll transfer off the yeast once the beer is basically conditioned and more stable. And then when we're doing beers like this, we're trying to make sure that they're high gravity. They're really not going to re-ferment. The yeast itself is more stable that way, or dead already out of the beer itself. But unlike our fruited sours, we do make sure, in the future, we're going to have a way of actually, making sure there's no re-fermentation. But with our fruited sours, we kind of have to keep them cold. There's really no way to absolutely stabilize them without pasteurizing them and making sure they won't explode. But on our really heavily adjuncted stouts, the stouts are completely fermented out to the point that the yeast isn't going to react and reset up again unless we get some wild yeast infection into it that can survive a 1100 gravity stout. It's really weird. Nothing can really grow when there's that much sugar left over in it. Even yeast like Nottingham is like, I don't want any part of that. It's kind of funny.
Well, I mean,
that's the final gravity on some of your stouts.
Yeah, we've actually had them in 1120s. 1130s has been the highest we've ever seen. Wow. The highest starting I had was 1260.
How do you even get how do you get the yeast going at such a high gravity? Will it just go?
We use a multitude of yeast.
Use an extra nutrient?
Nottingham's a great yeast to start out with. We have a generation that's old and has been around forever. And then we also blend it with a few other yeast varieties that we use in-house. We have a house strand that's been around for 2 years, almost since the beginning of COVID, or actually before the beginning of COVID. The problem we had is COVID shut the whole industry down. We couldn't get any from our suppliers. Our yeast company shut down. Luckily, we had a biologist as one of our brewers who, has got a bachelor's and a master's in biology and microbiology. He's like, I can do this. And at one point, we were spending $4,000 a month on yeast. He now allows us to get around for like $65 a month on our yeast program. And we've had the
Wow.
same pitch of yeast since being a COVID, and it actually has gotten better and more responsive and more consistent. It's kind of crazy to see now. So we know exactly what the yeast is going to do with what gravity, with what day of dry hopping. We know it's going to finish with what time. It's cool to see yeast kind of go through its generations and finally kind of get into its own and take on your house flavor. We've noticed with this yeast, it was, it's originally British 5 from Omega. And just using it through all generations, it's become more higher gravity resistant. So we've seen as high as 14% out of it, 15%. So we're eventually hoping to take it full bore onto our next real juice project, which is 16 to 18%, and we'll be able to actually push it a little higher. And then if we can do that with it, we'll get rid of the Nottingham out of the program, which has kind of been the goal for the past couple of years. But it's hard to find a yeast that gets high enough.
Yeah, that's.
So do you
that's nice.
do you start off with the Nottingham and then maybe like 2 days later, like pitch the rest of the yeast, or do you have like a certain like gravity target that you needed to reach?
We pitch them together.
Or? Oh, okay.
We don't know. We found that we've done that before, but we get a stall because no yeast likes being pitched two days into a fermentation. There's just not enough oxygen there for it to actually go into a regenerative cycle. So we pitch them together. We find that there's not much fighting, I want to say, but we do get the flavor of both within the beer, so we know they're both doing something. We originally started out with just 100% Nottingham, and it was okay. It's just there's something missing, and then incorporating British 5 or Burlington or a few other strains that we played with into it is kind of add a little edge and kind of create some more not fusels but cleaner flavor, I want to say.
Right on. No, that's interesting, and yeah, I mean, you've already got, and these beers are probably hitting what, high 8s and 9s or above, and then stalling. I mean,
alcohol.
When you're finishing it, yeah.
I mean, the highest I've ever seen fermentation wise is 20%. I've never seen anything higher than that. I've never tried, truthfully.
Oh no, I'm talking about when you're finishing out at like 10, or I'm sorry, 11, 20.
1090, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you've already got a lot of alcohol in suspension there. You've got a lot of sugar. Like you said, there's no chance of fermentation.
Re-fermentation. There's a small chance from wild yeast or lacto or Brett. Brett is a wonderful creature. Does a lot of interesting things if you let it wild. But yeah, there's really not much chance for anything to live once you're at that high gravity. And then what we tend to do is we'll even back sweeten. So like if we'll get down to 1090 and we add the adjuncts in, so the adjuncts being cinnamon rolls, brown sugar. I mean, those adjuncts can back sweeten it back up. The yeast won't eat that, but it also becomes so sugary of an environment that really nothing wants to survive in it. It's almost like syrup at that point.
So what big things are you working on right now, or do you have anything cool coming up or coming out at the brewery?
And we have a lot of things going on. Sadly, we had with that rainstorm about 3 weeks ago, we lost power for an entire weekend. On top of that, it flooded our basement, took out our glycol system. So I lost 3 beers, and one of them was my Helles that I was so excited for. And that one kind of hurt for a solid week and a half after. I didn't sleep very well for a while. It was my baby. Decoction mash, 2 days of solid work on the brew side. And then I was going back that day to go package it, and it was like at 100 degrees. I walk into the room, just like, oh no. Yeah, when that got poured down the drain, I cried a little bit. But the new stuff we have coming out, we actually have a strawberry shortcake sour coming out that we just got done fruiting on Friday. That's going to be pretty interesting. And then I just brewed a rice lager last week, which I'm kind of excited for. And then again, another sour I think we brewed this weekend. I can't remember exactly which one it is. One of my other brewers, it's his project, so he's manning this one. And I haven't been there today because I'm working on another project that will we're currently working on. So tomorrow morning when I walk into the firm, we can see what it is. I'm be excited, I think.
Sweet. I'm really sorry to hear about that. Yeah, that really sucks. Like it wasn't salvageable in the slightest. Like you tried the Hellas and it was just like not good. Or
so when the system fired back up, it lost all Freon. I guess it caused something to go bad with the compressor, but the actual glycol pumps kept on pumping. So the glycol that was going through the system was heating up by the pump. And what happens is if the tank turns on wanting to cool, it doesn't actually cool, it heats up. So it never actually turns back off. So when I got back in there, it was at 101 degrees. And we tried it. It just, there's no going back once it happens. It's like drinking a bottle of skunk beer from the grocery store shelf. Basically at that point. It was,
that's awful.
Yeah, it's 2 months of work down the drain, less than 48 hours.
Oh, yeah, I would
That's
cry.
what I get for not going into work on Sunday.
It's bad enough, dumping 5 gallons that you worked on for an afternoon. Having to dump all of that, I think I'd cry. It's another reason why I don't want to be a pro brewer. I'm sorry.
There were some days where you don't mind pitching beer down the drain, but there's other days where like, oh, this just is not a good day. And it was just not that one beer. We had lost 3 other beers that day, which were production beers that weren't really that problematic, but it still hurt. It was a solid, 3 days of actual sweat on the brew house. That just,
I always go back to that Netflix show with Dogfish Head where they dumped $1 million worth of 120. So.
Oh, I never saw that.
I mean,
that
was a great show. That show, that came out right at the prime time for me because when I saw that show for the first time, it was like great when I found out about Dogfish in 90 minutes. So I was like, oh, whoa, this TV show has a beer I just found out about. I like this. And that was one of the first episodes I actually caught was that one. I remember it very well. And that was actually what kind of pushed me towards the craft beer industry was when he showed his feeders on that show. And I was like, what are those oak tanks? I really want to use one of those one day. And maybe I will one day. I'm not sure yet, hopefully.
You don't have any fooders then there? Not yet?
Sadly, to get a fooder in my basement would not be an easy task. I've measured it out. I've come very close to actually making the perch. But it just doesn't make any sense. The biggest I can get down there 6 barrels. For us, 6 barrels would last us a couple days. It'd be hard to watch something that I've spent that much time with the last not very long. So I'm hoping in the next year maybe we can get a feeder on a larger scale. Nothing's set in stone yet, so COVID's kind of helped out. I mean, we sold a lot of beer during COVID. We had very little overhead, so we were able to save some money up, and we have some new projects coming. And I'm very excited about these projects because it allows us to produce a lot more beer. And
anything you can share? Is it all secret?
It'll be announced probably in about a month or so, maybe a little less.
Okay.
And then when it is announced, it won't be very long before it's in a lot of shelves.
Right on.
It's
hopefully it includes a wider distribution into the west side.
We're hoping. Well, we have M4 on board, so M4 is our trusted distributor. So hopefully we can get some more beer for them. With the reopening from COVID, we were kind of caught off guard with the extra early week and a half of it, and we weren't ready for the influx of people, and so our can production dropped dramatically for the past month, and it's kind of sad to see that because I enjoyed having cans to go. It's kind of all going towards the tap right now, and I think last week was the first time I canned beer in almost a month, so it felt kind of good.
Wow.
So for the last year, that's been like one of the big topics that we talked to a lot of brewers about was how they got through COVID. And I know we've kind of glossed over that, but it just do you attribute that to your canning line? I mean, did you guys just shift over to mostly to-go package sales?
So we actually had a great team. When COVID first happened, we really did not know what the hell to do. And my guys and me, we all decided that we were just going to, basically take ourselves off the clock. We weren't going to work anymore. I'll get paid at least. and everybody did that on the brewing side and on the higher management side. And it was a total of 4 of us. And we basically worked our standard schedule 70-hour weeks during COVID just to make sure the company would get by. And we realized within the first 3 weeks of doing this that we were actually making a lot of money because we discovered online sales. And I want to say we're one of the first breweries in the state to actually sell beer directly online. Our lawyer, God save him, helped us. He was like, Michigan, technically, you can sell beer online. It's 100% legal. There's no reason why you can't do it. And we're like, we were told it was always illegal. Like, no, out-of-state sales online are illegal, but in-state sales are perfectly legal. We're just like, really? So we ended up putting on 250 cases one morning and ended up selling all of them in 3 minutes. Not even 3 minutes, it's 35 seconds.
Wow.
It blew our mind.
Awesome.
So we ended up going back on the clock and basically being paid again to being full-time employees again. And from that time on during COVID, I mean, we were just putting beer online, and that kept the company going. It really, we were much more slimmed down as far as how many people we had in the clock. We had no front of the house. We had no kitchen. The overhead was super low, and we're just popping out beer. It was a surreal experience. I don't know how to explain because the tap room was dusty, dirty. There was nobody in it. There was cobwebs growing, but there was beer going out the door. And the canning line, we attest to actually having one. It was life-saving, company-saving experience. If we didn't have that canning line, I don't think we would still be sitting here today. Definitely not.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's amazing to see. I talked to a lot of my friends locally in the brewing industry, and they had a really rough go of it. And it was hard for a lot of people. My friends over at Drafting Table, when I saw Aaron a couple months ago, he went from being a full head of brown hair to full gray hair in less than a year. And he's the same age as me, 34 years old. And it was definitely a rough experience for him. A few other guys I've seen recently, Mike Kelly out of Ferndale Project. He was one of my old brewers, and he definitely has a full head of gray hair now too. So it's kind of passing on, I guess, from COVID.
We should drink one of our beers right now. Yeah.
I was going to say Ferndale picked it up with they were doing the deliveries. I mean, Brian and I got in on that. Brian's still on it, so that was a cool idea. Drafting Table was actually
the beer delivery thing was really interesting. I tagged.
Oh, go ahead on the beer delivery.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh no, that's a better line. So what were you going to say about the beer delivery?
It was really cool to see the beer experience. Is just I can get beer delivered to my house now. And I actually did have Ferndale Project deliver beer to Ascension one time, which was kind of a fun little thing to do.
Yeah, we did it for
I always got to
while.
get my buddy over there, Mike Kelly, some crap too.
I mean, it's a cool idea. I was pissed off because so Brian lives 10 miles from me, but I'm 1 mile over the Kalamazoo County line. So Ferndale would deliver to me, but they deliver to Brian. So I was having him take it to his house.
It's it's a little awkward sometimes because their delivery vehicle, says beer delivery or whatever on the side, and I swear it feels like they're here every weekend. So I'm my neighbors think I'm just getting cases of beer delivered every week. Who do they think I am actually? And then they see me outside in the driveway brewing, and I had an elderly neighbor thinking I was making drugs out there at one point in time.
Yeah, I had that.
Well, except for that one time that you probably were making drugs,
Yeah.
but that's all good.
We don't count that.
It's funny because I have neighbors I've never met before that I found out I'm a brewer, and I'm out in the backyard. They'll walk by and got me some beer. I'm like, really? What? Okay, yeah, sure, come on. But it's funny that people don't really I I've found out people don't really judge you, I guess. Especially during COVID, everybody was pretty happy to be just a little buzzed.
Yeah.
What else did you have to do?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we started this, right? We just needed to, we felt we needed to justify drinking as much as we did. So
I mean, truthfully, at our place, we have a kind of a rule about 10 a.m. Anything goes. So one of my brewers pretty much walks in. This shift starts at 10 a.m. Pour his first beer at 10 a.m. on the dot. I look at him like, really? He goes, yeah, I need breakfast. We're kind of normal drinking pretty consistently at our place. It's not probably a good thing, but usually by midday, I'm usually out there.
It's a lot of turkeys, Brandon.
That is a lot of turkeys.
Yeah.
I think we
Look at that picture on Facebook.
Yeah. We were in the brewery yesterday morning early filming the intro for one of our friends' breweries, and I think I think we were in my truck drinking beer at like 10 a.m. and I felt like shit the rest of the day. I'm like, I shouldn't have been doing this. Like, you shouldn't get up in the morning and kick it off hard and heavy, but it's like you said, we're
the
still
Michigan
in that
Homebrew
COVID
Festival is
mentality.
about.
Yeah, right. Michigan Homebrew Festival is fine. Beer, I guess it's a good breakfast. It's a balanced meal. So whatever.
High carbs.
That's what the Fruit Loops and the Cocoa Puffs beers are for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but
Getting your cereal.
it's funny because now I'm actually paying attention to what I'm drinking to make sure that I don't do any kind of too much damage to myself in the long run. And I find myself drinking more and more light, crispy beers just to make sure I can live a little longer. You can't have 5 or 6 IPAs in one sitting anymore.
No,
it's like when I first started brewing years ago, it was always, if it wasn't 7-8%, I wasn't wasting my time. And now I'm switching that mentality.
Bring on the 4%ers.
Yep.
Bring on the Rattlers,
Yeah.
please.
Yep.
Somebody hands me a Rattler. I'm like,
yeah.
thank you. You're awesome.
I think I just saw somebody talk about a competition that's a low ABV beer competition that's coming up. So it's like
That's
a thing.
interesting.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's actually
the
kind of
NA
a cool
market
idea.
is exploding right now. There's a huge push in the
Have
NA
you had
market,
any of
and-
athletic stuff?
Yeah, I have. It's impressive.
It's so
We're
good.
actually seriously looking into doing an NA product in the future here, and I don't know if I'm excited about it, but I'm kind of intrigued, and I kind of want to see if we can actually make it taste good. I'm a little terrified of the process, but it seems doable. There's 3 or 4 different ways you can make an NA beer, and some of them are real questionable. Other ones are like, it does seem like it actually is possible and doable. And then there's the scientific way, which I don't have a degree or the knowledge enough that some of my other guys in my team probably could do it. I just looked at it going, that kind of science is over my head.
There you go, Brian. Figure it out.
Yeah.
All right.
I've heard of a few other of the larger craft breweries anyway that are starting to come out with the NA product, and I'm curious about it. I haven't done a lot of research on it. My first inclination was, just like reboil or something, but
reboiling is one of the processes. It works pretty well, and you can rehop or refruit on top of it to kind of cover the flavor up. The other process I've seen a lot of is reverse osmosis style filtering. So you're running through a membrane, and it separates the alcohol from the malted product. And then that alcohol can be turned into seltzer, because technically it's a malted beverage. And you just add water to it. I know a lot of breweries are doing it that way. Another option, too, is you can brew an unfermentable wort almost, and have a yeast strain that dies off at 0.5% alcohol. And there's a lot more science into that one that I looked into. It's
Interesting.
kind of the more like large scale version of brewing a lot more NA beers. But the few I've tried done that way haven't tasted all the great. I think Guinness makes one that way, and I've tried it. It just tastes like hopefully sweet malted water.
That's what I was going to say. If you're not getting, I mean, if you're brewing with unfermentable, even at a low gravity unfermentable, well, you're still going to have that. I feel like that under attenuated flavor.
Yep. It's tea.
That flavor,
Right.
yeah. There's a thickness to it that stays on your tongue that
Yep.
you can't get rid of.
Yeah. The membrane though seems legit, but then that's equipment that you got to buy, right? And,
Yeah, it's not cheap. I want to say Pro Brewer in the commercial side makes one. The smallest one that makes maybe $60,000. It's not a cheap investment for anybody at my size.
Yeah. Sizable.
There's a weird changeover in the home brewing to professional brewing market where the cost of equipment, what you think it should cost, and then you go and actually buy it, and you get terrified because there's 2 extra zeros on to the end what you think it should cost. And it took me 3 or 4 years of this industry going, I should now expect this to happen. What was a good example? It was a fitting for our canning line. Oh, it was an air actuator for our canning line to push the can from the main line into the seamer. And that little actuator, which moves 2 inches, it looks like you can buy it at any commercial store. It's a one-off product from the canning company, and it costs $2,000.
Oh.
You're thinking it looks like it's an $80 piece of equipment, $2,000. It's the name of the game for the brewing industry, and I still don't get used to it. Every time that something breaks, I have a migraine every time something breaks, and it happens.
I think there's like
more than you think.
There's got to be a market for like secondary random pieces. I don't know, like little actuators or something like that. You can charge like $500 for them or something.
There's a huge secondary market.
You guys use tri-clamps in your.
I don't yet.
You guys rock tri-clamps for your brewing setups for home?
No.
I don't need them. I don't use
those
them.
Those things are the world's most evil things.
Yeah.
like price wise.
If you ever do use them, they're great.
Yeah. But they're expensive.
If you do use tri-clamps, they're great, but you're never going to actually keep the gaskets around because you're going to lose them all the time. And then the tri-clamps, you're going to lose those all the time somehow. I don't know how.
Man.
I feel like I buy 20 to 30 tri-clamps every month, and I still don't have enough tri-clamps. I don't know where they go. If I get thrown away, I don't know if they disappear. It's just you never have enough of them. And it's an evil thing in the brewing industry. It's kind of a joke in the professional realm. It's like a 10mm socket.
Nice.
For like the auto industry, right? Yeah.
No, we were just talking to Brandon, another friend of ours, and I think he was talking about setting up his new electric system with tri-clamps, and I thought of that. Like, it just seems too much for the homebrew side. But
I actually had it in my homebrew system back when I was doing it, and I enjoyed it. I had the cam locks and the tri-clamps, and I converted everything over to the tri-clamps. Once you get used to the method of putting them on, the fold over, it's real simple and easy. But the home brewing thing has changed so much since I was last doing it. I had a single tiered system with 2 pumps on it, 3 vessels made from kegs, kegel system, and now I'm seeing these Brewzilla systems that are all in one, and they're pretty badass. Truthfully, I kind of like them.
I have the
my
single tier
one. We actually have one at the brewery that we use for.
Yeah, I have the single tier kegel system, and I actually
single tier.
I'm looking
a lot
at
of room to
those.
move around. It's a lot of weight.
Yep. A lot of pain in the ass. But I'm looking at these all-in-ones, and we're talking about, in the future when we move, if I get them, and that's what Brandon Edwards in chat. I think he has a couple of different all-in-ones that are really cool, and I'm interested in them. But yeah, a lot of new innovations in home brewing in the recent years.
It's like all-in-one systems literally allows you to brew inside your kitchen. I mean, that was never possible. I was always out in my garage in the middle of wintertime, freezing my ass off brewing beer when I wanted to do it. I feel like I never did in summertime. I always did in the wintertime for some screwed up reason.
See, that's what you get. I'm the cook in the house, so I brew in my kitchen. I started brewing in my kitchen. I've always brewed in my kitchen, right on my stovetop. And all of my friends are out there in the wintertime freezing their ass off, and I'm sitting in my kitchen with my feet up. So
jealous. I don't miss brewing in the winter at all.
it's all good.
You sit in your garage, I'll bundle up in the corner, trying to get heat. Yeah, it's it's traditional brewing though. It's kind of those things you remember because out of all the dumb things I've done home brewing, I always remember brewing in the wintertime, even to this day. And you always remember the hard things of brewing. You don't remember the easy things. And it's one of those. Still to this day, I hate graining out. That's one thing I absolutely hate doing. Yeah, I just don't enjoy it. I don't think any brewer really does, truthfully.
No, we get to brew, 1 or 2 times a year. We get to go down to one of the local breweries and brew on their big system, and you can tell, when it hits that step in the process, all of us that have done it before just kind of disappear, and take that opportunity to go find a beer or
you're left there with the rake in your hand, like
yeah.
It's usually the collaborations. Like when we do collaborations with breweries, they're like, okay, let's do the picture. Okay, you can grain out now. There's your work. You're done now. It's every brewery, including us, when we do collaborations.
Is there like an ingredient or like something that you want to use like during like a collab brew, or like that you haven't used it, that you're like you're itching to use and you just haven't gotten the chance to yet, or anything? Like even like something crazy even.
I mean, there's some collab brews that we talked about in the past that have been possible. There's one beer we're talking about making with somebody called a miso goza. So using miso paste in boil.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Oh, and also koji rice in the mash, which we're familiar with using koji rice in the mash. It actually does some pretty cool things, but I've never used miso on the boil side. We talked about doing a salted goza with miso.
I mean, just the umami. God, yeah. I don't know, man. That sounds fucked up. Brian and I joke around all the time.
We've had worse ideas that turned out way better.
We've always joked around about doing a roast beef New England IPA called Au Jus, and to go for that umami. Meaty.
I think you guys need to do it. I think you need to stop joking about it and just try it.
So actually, I have an interesting beer with me right now. And this one actually uses koji rice in the mash. Okay. So it's called Kojimochi. So we actually use koji rice in the mash and mash longer for about 4 hours. And there's a bacteria in the koji rice that actually breaks down the sugars into more simple chain sugars, so it makes it more fermentable. And in turn, it also adds a little umami flavor to it too, which we really enjoy. This beer, when we add the fruit to it, kind of crispens it up, but still kind of like light and sweet at the same time. It does a really weird thing with beer. We're doing a lager next with koji rice too, which is going to be a fun little side project also.
Before you started using that, did you do any like research into what you thought would happen, or was it just like, all right, koji rice into the mash tun, like let's see what we get?
So we're in Novi, and Novi is one of those cool places where a majority of the population is actually either from Japan, China, Thailand, or India. And it's a really cool location where we're at because we have literally the best small Japanese grocery stores, restaurants, Indian stores, restaurants by us. So we get a lot of flavors to work with. A lot of customer clientele are either Toyota, Nissan, or Hyundai. So we get a lot of Japanese clientele. So like we get these flavors brought to us. We get things brought to us from customers that like us. So we always are trying new things. And koji is one of those things where like, this could work for brewing. Why not try it? And when we do make it, the customers that do enjoy it really like it. Yuzu fruit is another one of the ones I never knew about until we had a customer bring us one. There's mochi. I mean, mochi itself, I never discovered mochi until about 5 years ago. I had a customer bring me a pack of mochi, and it was the like life-changing experience. I've never had ice cream or dessert like that before, and that was really the inspiration for that beer I just showed. So mochi is like a rice ball filled with ice cream, and it's the two weirdest textures you've ever had, but they're weird in a good way that it's hard to explain. If you ever go to any grocery store, see if you can find a mochi ball. It's so good.
Okay.
It's like a handheld like cream puff ice cream.
Yeah, it's like the outside is like it's like a rice paste, so it's almost like a fondant, like a thick frosting kind of, so it's, if I'm thinking of the right thing.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's super interesting. Usually covered in a little bit of powdered sugar, so you don't get your fingers sticky.
Yeah.
They beat the shit out of it.
It's
you live like 2 blocks away from Pacific Rim. Go find mochi.
Okay.
So, it's a rice dessert. That's neat though. I still don't understand the jump from mochi to koji rice and beer, but sure, man.
So koji rice is actually used in a lot of process in Japan. So it's actually in mochi dough. So that was kind of why we actually put it in the beer to begin with, because it was a mochi idea beer. And we realized the rice had some fermentable capabilities to it, had some good bacteria to it, so it's kind of fun to play with. And if you look into production of koji in itself, it's one of the coolest things that's actually produced. There's a really long video on YouTube, and I recommend watching it if you're really bored in the middle of the night and you can't sleep. You might push you to bed.
I didn't know you were crossover. I know that mochi's or koji, is the whole like what is it? It's a fermentation. It's a fungus, right? That grows on rice.
It's a lactic acid fermentation style. Yeah, it's the fungus that lives on the rice, and it's really beneficial for making most of the things that you know in Japanese cooking, such as soy sauce. Sake is one of them.
Right.
A lot of those. I mean, it's almost universally used, and I really did not know much about the history until I dove into using it. It was kind of cool to see how much of culinary history in Japan is kind of locked onto that product.
Yeah, if you want to give us the link for that video, I'd love to watch it and post it too for anybody watching the show that wants to watch it too. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
I've always wanted to try making sake.
It's even worse watching soy sauce making videos.
Yeah. I've actually, it's another one of the things.
Really, our inspiration for us.
Go ahead.
Our inspiration for us is really just kind of what's locally around us, and that's one of those few things that just kind of we have around us. It's just available, and then a lot of other inspiration comes from us just doing stupid things and getting drunk at night and having dumb ideas when we talk between ourselves as brewers. As you guys know, when you sit around 5, 10, 15 beers deep and you're in the middle of the woods, there's 3 of you guys as brewers, ideas just kind of flow.
Yep.
I was talking with some friends of ours that own a brewery out here, and earlier on in COVID when this started, and I said, we just got drunk and came up with this crazy idea, and they said, how do you think our brewery started? So I get it. Anyway, so is that beer, is that something they have available now, or that Kojimochi, or is that something out of your stash?
That's out of my stash. Actually, the beer we currently have now I'm drinking is the Fasting the Heart, and that's actually available in cans right now online and at the brewery. That's Sabro, Simcoe, and Galaxy hops, New England style IPA.
Right on.
And Kojimochi, I'm probably going to brew that in the next month or so, so that'll probably be showing up in August, I'm guessing.
Awesome.
Have you used any hops recently that aren't probably available on like the homebrew scale or anything? Something that
something new.
Yeah.
Oh, so I am a big component. I'm a big fan of Michigan hops. Michigan's terroir for growing a particular variety of hops, known as Cashmere, Chinook, and Centennial, We grow those three hops are the best here in the state than anywhere else around the world. The cashmere from Michigan is hands down the best cashmere in the world, and it is very available on the homebrew scale. Top Hops of Goodrich, Michigan, which is just north of me here, grows the best cashmere in the state, and they do sell in homebrew sizes. I think 1 pound and I think down to half-pound sizes too. Michigan Hop Alliance. I'm not sure if they're available on the homebrew side. They might be soon. I had to talk to Mike Tonsini. He's their rep for me over here. They might be doing it, but they have a huge farm up in outside of Traverse City. I want to say in Sutton, Michigan, and they grow phenomenal cashmere, phenomenal Cascade. Their Chinook is pure pineapple. Michigan Chinook. If you want to put pineapple in a beer, that is the hop to use.
That's crazy.
Not the black pepper you get from the Cascadian. It's just pure pineapple. It's hard to explain. That's the same thing with the cashmere. The cashmere it's a really complex hop. It's almost like melon, mango, pineapple explosion. And if you use it just right in dry hop, if you use it in biotransformation and fermentation, the flavors just pop so well. And it's amazing to think this hop grows in Michigan. And it's like not a Citra variety or a New Zealand Galaxy or Australian Galaxy or New Zealand Nelson. It's Michigan has terroir. I guess that grows good hops. Yeah, that's my rant about Michigan hops. I'm a big proponent of Michigan hops, and I love seeing that we're growing some of the best in the country, or if not the world.
I've been seeing Michigan Copper pop up a lot lately too. Ferndale.
That's one of the hops
you
that's
mentioned
always
earlier. Does
Really?
Okay. They do a solo copper beer that I think is just like one of their best IPAs. I love it.
I need to try another copper hop beer. It's been a while. Every time it's available, I always miss out on buying it. I don't know what happens. I want to buy some and then it just becomes available and then not available. The weird thing about buying hops in a commercial size is that it's real hit and miss. There's certain varieties that are really small production go instantly. So there's one particular hop that I absolutely love. I could never get a hold of. If I do buy it, I buy as much as I can. It's called Strata. If you guys are familiar with it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So Strata in the commercial brewing world is one of those hops that if someone offers you like 300, 400, 500 pounds at $20 a pound, you grab it because you're not going to get it from any other way possible. That's usually what happens to me. I have to if one of my friends pops up out of the middle of nowhere, is like, dude, I have this contract with Strata that I can't get rid of right now. It's $20 a pound. I got 100 pounds. You have to buy it because you're not going to find it any other way. Citra, there was a shortage of Citra back in 2018 or 2017 that just rocked the brewery industry. When Labatt released that Citra Labatt Blue, they literally bought the entire Citra supply of the country. And
wow,
I remember I was paying almost $30 a pound in commercial sizing for Citra.
Wow.
It was painful. And then luckily that fad kind of fell off and Citra is super available right now. Thank God.
Yeah.
What's your favorite way to use Strata? Like what's your recommendation there?
So Strata, I like it either for biotransformation. So when we dry hop our hazy IPAs, we will do our first dry hop right around 1028. And then usually when we do it right there, we get explosive reaction. You'll see nucleation to the point where it almost wants to come out of the tank. Blows right out of the tank. We do that first dry hopping. That basically is, causing the proteins to lock on and, create some crazy flavors. Strata at that point is so pungent, so strong that if you dry hop it anything else, it's going to overpower it, including Nelson and Galaxy. I've seen it overpower. So we try to biotransform it with Strata if we're using it. I do like Strata by itself, so I'll do a second dry hop with it 2 days later, right before terminal, and then I really like doing this, and I like spunning my tanks once I do my second dry hopping. And if in the home brewing world you're able to spun under pressure or dry hop under pressure, it holds the flavors in. If you're able to carbonate in your homebrew tank up to 15 psi or 1 bar, the protein head retention is night and day difference. It's we've noticed in our system if we don't close off at the right time, we don't get that head retention that we normally get if we close off at the right time. And two, being at our scale, we're not really using that much CO2, but not having to carve a beer up, from 0.0 to 2.8 with CO2 versus 2.2 to 2.8 with CO2. You save a lot in the long run. We go through 800 pounds every 3 weeks if we don't do it that way. If we do it that way, we go through 200 pounds.
That's awesome.
What's like the ideal PSI to spun at, do you think?
We've been playing with it. I really like 1 bar.
Okay.
1 bar for me, it seems the yeast doesn't seem to get too stressed, especially British 5. Some yeast varieties, if you go 1 bar, they don't seem to like it. Another thing we're playing with a lot is pressure loggers. So using, I think it's OYL 32 or 37, which is cerveza yeast from Omega. Don't quote me on that, but cerveza yeast from Omega. They that yeast is a workhorse. It's great for doing pressure loggers. If you run it at 62 degrees at like 5 to 10 psi, it primaries out in 5 days, and it's super clean.
Wow.
I recommend using it all day long. And then Kavik strands are entertaining as hell. I don't know if you guys have played with those yet.
I had a couple years ago. I had a whole summer full of experimenting with stuff that I got from straight from a guy over in Norway, and I don't know if they were like pure or whatever. Some of them were like super interesting, and some of them I got like super nail polish out of, and but yeah, it was a fun summer. But Jason really likes to use Lutra.
We use them in production size for about a year. Yeah. I've never actually used one seltzer before. That was kind of intriguing. Our seltzers, what we do are we use champagne yeast, and I've been also playing with distilling yeast just recently on seltzers in smaller scale to see if there's faster turnaround time. The name and game with seltzer is you produce it.
You produce it in the what?
Sorry. Seltzers, you're trying to produce them as fast as possible and get them out. It's kind of what we're trying to do with them. And you have them in it for 3 weeks fermenting out. It takes tank space. I really don't like making them. Sell. It's so freaking stupid.
So, I like them. I mean, they're fine. They're easy to drink. Again, kind of targeting that lower ABV thing, something that's different. But my wife likes them, so I keep them on tap. But we actually we interviewed Lance Shaner from Omega last year, and it was right around the time they had released. Right after they had released. Yeah,
the enzymes
after Lutra. Yeah, but they'd come out with proper seltzer, and Lance recommended that, like a package of Lutra and a packet of proper seltzer. And I mean, it's turning seltzers around in a day and a half, 2 days, like it's done.
Wow.
It's just ridiculous. They go off, and the next day it's clean. So, I did a few of them. I like Lutra. It's a good clean bike yeast.
We've done a few pseudo loggers with them with that particular strain. I've been pretty impressed with it. Bootleg Biology's version, I forget what they call that one. The Gulu? Is it Gulu from Omega? Bootleg Biology's version of their Kavik pseudo logger strain is also pretty intriguing. Also,
I think that's Oslo. There's an Oslo, and there's something else.
Yeah, I still think I have some Oslo.
I will actually say, what was it, like 2019 when 2019 when all the bike strains started coming out, and I think everybody started using them.
Milk the Funk was real big out for a bit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I remember going to festivals and seeing all these different, breweries coming out with it. And I just feel like it got abused. And it didn't go well because everybody was like, I can ferment it hot and fast. And I mean, you're still putting out shit beer. So
our biggest problem with it was it wasn't sustainable. It's a great yeast to have, but if you have someone there 24 hours a day, it's a great yeast. If you have someone there for only 12 hours a day, it's not a good yeast. You know, the one biggest problem we're having is hitting that right dry hop time, and
Because it's too
it
fast.
wasn't consistent. So sometimes we would have, you know, it'd be too fast. Other times it'd be slower. So like we would have fermentation that would be finished in 14 hours sometimes. So we would hit our dry hop, you know, we miss our dry hops time. And there's other times where we have, you know, 24, 25 hours of time. And it just wasn't consistent enough for us to actually like using it. And we used it for a solid year. We used Hornadel, Oslo, Boss, I think 2 different versions of Boss. I think it was Google was one of the other ones. And there was another off one from East Bay that we grew up. I forget the name of it. That was a really weird variety, almost like green apples and long runs, which I don't know about you. I don't like green apples and beer. But yeah, we kind of pushed it out of our program just because it wasn't consistent. And British 5 for us has just been such a workhorse that it works so well for other beers. The only time we bring in other yeast is for like West Coast projects or for our higher end stout projects or for Saison and wild beer projects is when we do different yeast varieties. Sure. But mostly we stick to British 5.
Right on.
Ooh.
Well, I think we're just over an hour and a half, or almost to an hour and a half, I should say. And
oh, really?
So probably should wrap it up. Yeah, it's been going.
That was fast.
Yep. Usually does go fast. That's a good thing, though.
I've only gone through 4 years, so
yep.
Only 4. For our next show, we're going to be talking with, I think, gluten-free homebrew supply, right?
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah. Have you ever done a gluten-free beer?
Yeah. So my sister is gluten intolerant, so she forced me to make her a rice-based beer. She's not pretty good. Thinking about making it again.
We just did our first homebrew gluten-free beer last weekend.
Yeah.
A weekend ago, whatever. What was it? It was buckwheat.
Did you guys do sorghum or?
Yeah, it was sorghum, buckwheat, and oat malt, I think.
Oat malt? Okay.
Or did it have quinoa? Yeah, something.
I thought I saw quinoa in there. The guy that we're interviewing next week kind of sent us a kit, and he milled it for us. So we just kind of took it and followed his instructions. It was interesting.
I know there's a lot more options now when it comes to particular malts for brewing gluten-free beers, because it's been almost 5 years since my last attempt at one, and I literally only had rice syrup and sorghum syrup available to me at the time. And I know now that revisiting it's probably a smarter idea, because considering how much oat malt I use at my place, it's readily available. I can't remember. Actually, spelt is not on a list of gluten-free products. Is it? It's a wheat base, so it's
I don't think it is. That. Yeah.
Chick. I need to revisit it. We do a lot of rice stuff now, so I know that rice is doable. The biggest problem I have is the contamination of our system. I don't know if we're legally allowed to call it gluten-free if we run it on our actual system. So that's kind of
interesting.
Up in air.
It's like Burger
King. The plate chiller itself, you really never possible
burgers.
Yeah, gluten reduced is what I think we can legally call it.
Yeah. No, so that's coming up next week. We're gonna I'm gonna finish that beer in the next day or two, and get it kegged and carbonated, and so we'll have gluten-free.
Brian runs he runs a gluten-free homebrew supply store over on the east side there, of the state. So
I think it's in Troy.
We're at on the east side.
Troy? Okay.
I think it's Troy. Let me pull it up. It's called Gluten-Free Homebrew Supply.
Really? Is it like part of Cap and Cork, or is it a whole new one?
It is. I believe it's a whole new one. Yeah, that's not the right logo. Well, yeah, I'm not finding it, Brian. You have his link, don't you?
I have it somewhere. Yeah. God, I just don't have it handy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think he's in Troy, Michigan. So
Okay.
We'll have to find it. It'll be up next week if you follow us on Facebook.
Yeah, we'll definitely have all this information next week. Yeah.
But we're going to be on talking about gluten-free beer. And then I don't think we have anything else booked for the rest of July yet. In August, we're going to be at Michigan Homebrew Festival. And we're working on a couple other shows with a couple other breweries around. So yeah, Brandon, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. If anybody's over in the Novi area, go check out Ascension. Like I said, I was there a few weeks ago. Great beer. Lots of cool different. Yeah, I only got to try like the soup and the onion rings though. So, but the menu looked cool. Like I need to go back. We were doing like that was like a 10-stop brewery hop day. So it was like.
Cool. That's not an easy day.
There's even more room for beer. Yeah. So, all right. Anyway, yeah. So thanks again. We're gonna play this stupid outro. We talked through the outro. It's all fine.
We'll have a new outro in a couple of weeks. It's exciting.
New intro, outro. Yeah. Right on. Thanks a lot, guys.